welcome to Stitching Stories episode 1. If you've never seen me before, my name is Angela Damond and I'm a textile artist, teacher, author, designer of kits. I do lots and lots of things. And I'm coming to you today for my very first vlog from my studio, which is in Spalding in Lincolnshire. And if you're not from the UK, it's on the eastern part of the country, so sort of right on that eastern edge there. I have been wanting to do one of these for a long time, and I've been encouraged by friends to do one of these for a long time as well. I just had to sort of ponder it and let the idea sit there. So I really hope you enjoy my very first episode. And my editing skills are probably not as good as my book writing or my stitching, so just bear with me and I'm going to try my very hardest. And I thought I'd use this episode to tell you a little bit about myself, what I do, some of my inspiration perhaps. And as well as stitching, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my knitting as well, because I do a lot of knitting as relaxation. Because as stitching has become more of the day job, I've really been more reliant on my knitting for relaxation and to keep my hands busy. Now, I have been teaching for probably, a long time. And I've been teaching at some of the shows like Festival of Quilts in the UK, the Knit and Stitch shows for probably 7, 8, 9 years now. So you might have seen me there. You might have heard me on my booth there. In 2018, I had a spinal cord injury. So if you saw me in 2019, you would have seen me whizzing around the show on my wheels, or as much as the crowds allowed me to whiz around the show on my wheels. But it didn't stop my passion for stitching or for sharing my knowledge with you. And as I said about sharing my knowledge, I thought, at the end of every episode, I'm going to share with you a tip or a little tutorial, just something like that to whet your appetite, something that you might want to try out that perhaps won't need much in the way of resources. So, as I said, I'm Angela, and it's lovely that you've come on this journey with me and you're watching my very first episode here. I'm a teacher, as I said, I'm a textile artist. I do lots of my own Cantha kits, and I'll put my website in the description box below so you can have a look there if you've never seen that before. I think I've published 6 books now. I've got to think about that now, mainly on Cantha work. If you've never heard of Cantha work, it's a really old technique. It's 500 years old, and it really just uses one stitch, which is the running stitch, to create lots of representational images. And I think I've stitched pretty much everything with that one stitch, and it gets addictive as well. And I think I'll tell you much more about Cantha in another episode, and maybe I'll just share with you some of my vintage Cantha quilts as well, because over the years I've sort of started collecting them and I've got some really beautiful pieces. I thought you might also want a studio tour as well in a future episode, because I thought, today I'll just tell you who I am, all about me and some of the things that I've been doing. I'm always stitching. If I travel by car and I'm a passenger, I stitch. If I travel on the train, I stitch. So I think, like many of you, I always have just something on the go. I do also stitch by machine though, so I do machine quilting, machine quilts. I make big quilts. I just realised sitting here setting up, you can sort of over here on this quilt ladder, you can just about see one of my larger quilts on here. And there's one underneath it as well. So I do an awful lot of things. I love to stitch, and I'm sure you love to stitch as well, and I love to be busy. One of the things I started last year, because I think we're all aware that we're in the middle of a pandemic, although at the moment in the UK we're actually taking measures to come out of that, to sort of return to some normality, is that in 2020, as lots of the shows were cancelled, I did a lot of my teaching online, and I thought that's really good. So I can meet all of you doing online teaching. And I also started a Friday night Zoom stitch along, the first Friday of every month. And again, I realised that what I missed the most was seeing people, showing what you've made from my books, giving tips. I really miss that people contact, and it made me realise that we're really lucky, because I think prior to this none of us knew what Zoom was, And what I love the most is that when I do my teaching, I can be talking to somebody in America, in New Zealand, in France, all over the world. And all of a sudden, through these online workshops, the world becomes a much smaller place, doesn't it? Last autumn, I did a journal, which is actually a biannual one. And this is the second one as well. And I'm just holding this up now because I've got a few left on the website. It wasn't supposed to be a plug or anything like that, but I'm really proud of this because I started writing this because, again, it's an extension of my teaching, and because I couldn't teach last year, I was really thinking of how can I reach out and inspire people to stitch and encourage people to stitch. And one of the projects from this came from feedback from my Zoom teaching, because people were saying to me, but when all my needles are in my pincushion or in my needle case, how do I tell them apart? And I thought, that's a really good question. How do you tell them apart? I'm sure lots of you aren't like me, that I'm really meticulous in keeping them apart. So I designed a needle case for you all. And this is it. It's in the journal, but I just thought I'd show it you because you might have something similar at home. So when you open it up, you have a section for needles, and you can really see where each one is. So you've got the needle type and the needle at the bottom. And you can go from a really tiny quilting needle up to a bigger chenille needle. I thought that's really nice because you can always then know what size needle you're using. And you might like a smaller needle, you might like a bigger needle. Choosing your needle size is a lot of personal preference. Just because it's right for me doesn't mean it's right for you. And always choose a needle that you're comfortable with, because it might work for me, but if you can't thread it, there's no point using it. And I find at shows sometimes people do say to me, well, what needle size do you use? And then they might go and buy it, and it's like, well, try it first of all, because I was a quilter and I like a small needle, and actually I like using small knitting projects as well. I like using 2.5mm needles. That's my favourite one, which is quite small. And I think that's just me, and that's just how it is, really. So I do a lot of stitching, which I love, and I also do a lot of knitting as well. I thought I'd just show you some of my knitting projects now. I've moved some woolly things in front of me on the table down here just to show you what I've been up to, really, because I've actually finished more woolly projects recently than stitching projects. I've got an awful lot of stitching projects on the go because I'm currently involved in a block of the month, so I've been stitching all of the birds for that. And it's a bit secret as we go along as to what the next month's bird is, so I can't really show you any of those. So lots of my stitching I've got in progress at the moment, I can't actually share with you. And it's not often I can say that, but at the moment I can't do that. But as part of the woolliness in front of me, one thing I wanted to show you was this. And this is such a glorious colour. And one of the things I love to do as well is natural dyeing. So dyeing with plants, flowers, insects, all that sort of thing. And I'm going to do a mini tutorial at the end of this vlog about how you can dye with turmeric. Because I thought, nearly everybody has probably got some out-of-date turmeric powder in the bottom of their cupboard, and you can use it for dyeing. You can dye, I've got yarn here, this is sock yarn. It's actually superwash sock yarn, but you've got yarn, you can dye with fabric, and you don't need much in the way of resources. And if I hold it up, I don't know if I can do that, you can see the way I've done it in the pan. I've got some light and shade to this, and that was intentional. I didn't want it to be a uniform colour. And this is going to be a pair of Shorty Socks for me, because I find with my spinal cord injury, I struggle to find socks that don't rub on my toes because I can't move my toes. So if I knit my own socks, I don't get that seam at the toe. So I'm aiming that by the time I record Stitching Stories episode 2, I might have one sock done in my turmeric dyed yarn. That's the plan. I might be holding up a work in progress for you, but that's the plan. And this was 50 grams of sock yarn because I want a pair of Shorty Socks, and I have small feet as well. So go to the end of the video and you'll be taken through how to dye with this, and I'll show you how I do it. I also like making shawls, and I like big shawls that wrap around me. And one of the ones I've just finished is a pattern I found on Ravelry, and it's called Waiting for the Rain. I'll hold up the pattern title, but again the writing is going to be reversed. And this is the first time I've knitted something with lots of lace short rows. So you can see how big this is. Now I haven't blocked this yet or washed it, and I've got a couple of ends, but you can see, let's hold it up, it's really long. But the way the light is coming in through the studio window, and I'm going to get it the right way around for you, I'll hold it up again, you can see, in fact the light is showing this really nicely on my top. There's lots of short row lace sections in this. There's one there, there's one up here, there's one along here, and then there's one along this end as well. And I really enjoy doing this because it's short rows, so it's like miles and miles. I think you can just see the lace pattern there. I think that's a little bit better, isn't it? It's showing through the light. And what I like about this is that there's miles and miles of garter stitch, but you've got this added interest of short row sections of the lace. And I think it's just me that I just like something that's really light, that you can actually pop around yourself like this. Whoops. And this is indigo dyed yarn, and it was a gift from my son for my birthday last year. And I can't remember who dyed it, but I'll put it in the description box below if you're interested, because it's got stellina in it, so it's got that silver sparkle to it. And it's a 4-ply, and the fibre is just really nice and floppy. So I have to try and block this vigorously. So that will be fun. I'm going to take it off because it's quite warm in the studio today. I said that I knit a lot of socks, and I've got one sock here. If I just take it off, take it off. And all I've got to do with this one is do the kitchen stitch, which actually is something that I enjoy. And this was again yarn that was gifted to me. And this is actually the first time I've used a one-ply sock yarn. And these have almost got a silky feel to them. So I need to do my Kitchener stitch. And I need to at least start the other one of these. And you can see it's a nice fade. So I need to finish this. Otherwise, you know, sometimes my socks do suffer from second sock syndrome, which I don't want for this one. I'm at the point of deciding what I'm going to cast on my needles next. I've got no real plans at the moment, so again I'll keep you updated with that one as well. So there's a lot going on really, and you know, I think I said I use knitting a lot for relaxation because I always have to have my hands doing something. I can't sit and watch the television and not do anything at all. And I remember being in the spinal unit and knitting socks, and the nurses would come on and they'd say, oh, how far have you got? And I'd sort of hold it up. And especially if I was tired or something, they'd go, oh, I'll come back at the end of the day, end of my shift, and see how much you've done. And I'd kind of feel that I had to just do more so I could show them what I'd done. So, you know, I sort of kept knitting and kept knitting and kept knitting just to show people what I was doing. So as part of this, I am going to share my knitting with you. Sometimes if I'm really busy, there might not be much progress. And I thought it'd be nice for me as well to use these vlogs as a kind of video diary, which I think is what it means. So I can see the progress as well that I'm making. Because sometimes I think there'll be lots to show, and sometimes there might not be quite so much, but hopefully you'll come back and, you know, there might be tips you can share with me, so you can put them underneath on the description box as well. You know, I'm really hoping this is going to be a sort of a bit of a two-way process, so we can sort of all get together and enjoy each other's. We can all get together and enjoy each other's company as well. And if you're watching this and you're not in the UK, please do tell me in the comments below as well. I think I'm aiming realistically to do one of these a month, and then I thought, well, if I'm doing anything exciting, because the aim is in the UK that the big show in the summer, Festival of Quills, it's anticipated that it will happen this year, and if it does happen, I'll be there. So I thought, you know, you might like to find out a bit about that and find out what I've been up to as well. I'm not travelling as much at the moment for obvious reasons, but again, you know, once I start travelling, you can come with me on my journeys and just share what I'm up to. And have fun with me and let me share what you're up to as well. I really hope you've enjoyed what I've talked about. I'm trying to keep this short because I don't want to make it too long for you. And I know that I want to do a tutorial at the very end about turmeric dyeing as well, so you can have a go. And if you do have a go, please show a photograph below. I'm not actually sure you can do that actually. Can you put a, I'm not sure you can show a photograph in the comments, maybe not. But if you can't, you can find my email on my website. Again, the link will be below in the description box, so you can share what you've been up to as well. And you know, by issue 2, this turmeric yarn will hopefully have one shorty sock at least on it. I'm potentially going on the longest car journey I've done in over a year, probably 18 months. Can't think. Since February 2019, I'm potentially going on my longest car journey since then. And I find sock knitting ideal car knitting because my husband drives and I just knit away. And I prefer to use a round circular 2.5mm needle. And I mostly prefer to knit plain vanilla socks because I just find that the most relaxing for me. So I will share my progress with you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you so much for watching. Please do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, especially whereabouts you're watching. And I will see you again for issue 2. And the turmeric dyeing is coming up.